Hello
everyone, dear friends. My name is Aneta. I'm a Senior Manager of Communications Department at NORIS Innovation Cluster of Nazarbayev University. And I would like to welcome you for today's lectures. And let me introduce our speaker, our special guest, creating financial fintech startups. His name is Mr. Gani Uzbekov. Thank you for our advisor of the General Director, Mr. Asalbek Nazarov, for inviting Gani for these lectures. So Mr. Gani Uzbekov has over 20 years of experience in finance and in international development. He graduated from the London School of Economics and Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government, was appointed Deputy Minister of Finance. He was served several top positions of Kazakhstan national companies such as Kazyna and National Agency of Regulation. He built a fintech startups platform, SilkPay, and raised $1,200,000. So I give the floor to Mr. Gani and wish everyone to get the maximum benefit and insights from the fintech lectures. So please.
Well, thank you, Janet, for such lovely, kind introduction. And thank you, Asalbek, for inviting me and giving this opportunity to talk, I would say, a little bit more in details what's happening in fintech industry, especially in this part of the region. To be honest, I don't have like slides presentation and how to say like lecture in the sense that describes like some conceptual things, but I would love to hear your views, your questions, and I would love to answer if you have any questions in terms of how to build startups, how to get funding, and let me maybe briefly, maybe like 10-15 minutes to spend on my personal experience, what we've done, what we faced, and how we did overcome certain challenges and difficulties. So basically, we are, as Janet said, fintech startup, even though we registered 2 years ago in Astana International Financial Center. And we also got invitation from Dubai International Financial Center. So basically, our idea is around helping unbanked and underbanked people. And just for your information, there are around 2 billion people who don't have access to banking services in the world. And out of those 2 billion, 1 billion lives in Southeast Asia. And at the same time, Southeast Asia, they have one of the highest to do some banking. So what we've done is actually we've built a digital payment platform, which allows anyone to instantly join our platform by buying prepaid card and instantly join and instantly enjoy all our banking services like P2P transfer, do some online shoppings, purchases, everything you name it. So we've built that platform. We are the first company in Central Asia who got affiliated membership from MasterCard. We have our own in-house payment processor, which has been certified by MasterCard. And right now, we are partnering with several banks in Dubai, Philippines, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and a couple of countries in this region, Uzbekistan, and also Turkey. So basically what we would like to do is actually give people an opportunity to buy our prepaid card, and within that wallet and within that balance actually instantly generate and buy prepaid card in local currency. So imagine, for example, you live in Kazakhstan and you would like to travel to Turkey. You can instantly buy prepaid card in Turkish lira and actually use that card while you're traveling and I don't know, enjoying life in Istanbul. We also have, in addition to that, another options, which basically what we do is actually we help people instantly generate new card and share that card with your loved ones without physically moving the cash. And so our goal by the end of this year to partner with 3 banks in 3 countries is basically Dubai, Philippines, and Turkey, and then do next round in spring next year or summer, and increase number of countries in Southeast Asia and include 2 countries from Europe. So while we're doing this business and trying to raise funding, we actually faced and still facing a lot of challenges, especially being as a Kazakh startup. So I would say maybe upfront to all of you, especially like young people who might have some maybe naive, I would say, opinion about our region. So basically for big VCs, our region is not interesting at all. So basically, if you want to raise money from big VC, you need to have big ideas. So if it's only pure Kazakh idea, you have to run after Kazakh angel investors. And I will tell maybe a little bit later what kind of say drawbacks and constraints you have when you run after local Kazakh like local angel Kazakh investors. But if you want to raise big money and if you want to get like I would say, want to be interested for big VC, you need to have big ideas, at least regionally. But I will tell you, like neither Russia nor Central Asia, they're not, I would say, interesting area for big VC. That's why we decided to move to Middle East, because right now in Middle East, there are many VCs who have a lot of money and looking for startup, for fintechs, and Southeast Asia actually also, I would say, one of the very, I would say, booming region in terms of setting up fintechs, in terms of having more, I would say, the easier way to do business there, and also relatively easy way raise funding as compared, say, if you stay in Kazakhstan. That's why if you want to set up fintech, if you want to like still dreaming, and if you want to do something, think big and make sure that your idea will be interesting for big VCs. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck within Kazakhstan or within the region. So I would say access to funding and lack of funding is one of the most crucial challenge and then problem for startups. And I saw a lot of talented young people who eventually couldn't make it and couldn't raise money and actually eventually close their business. So you have to make sure that when you decide to set up your startup, that at least you have your own personal funds for the next at least 12 months, ideally 18 months. And then start thinking and start looking for funding from day one, because it takes a lot of time to raise awareness about your company, to get contacts, to get personal contacts, all of those kind of all of those kind of things, actually, it takes time. And usually, like, it takes 6 months from the day one when you met investor potential and when you get money, usually take 3-6 months. So access to funding and in our region, lack of funding is actually one of the most crucial challenge and problem, which potentially might kill your business. So you have to think twice and maybe be more conservative when it comes to calculating how much budget you need to run your startup without external help. And yes, we have, I would say, some local VCs, private equity funds, banks. They don't usually give loans for startups. There are a lot of state-run programs, but their tickets, again, it depends on your idea. Their tickets is not, I would say, sufficient enough to run your business. So that's why please make sure that you have your own personal funds or so-called family friends who will help you if, for example, at a certain period of time, you might have gap, especially in working capital or when you're building some initial infrastructure. And when it comes to, I would say, having negotiation with local so-called angel investors, be prepared that those people, they usually ask more than 50%. And again, it's up to you whether you wanna give away, I would say, more than 25% at your first round, because you have to understand that Kazakhstan is a very small country, and actually, like, there are not so many angel investors. So if you invite someone, of course, it will be immediately well known, and sometimes particular person might not be attractive for other people. And that's why you might also be stuck with that person, and you eventually will be fully dependent on that person. So you have to make sure that you calculate very thoroughly in terms of whether that money from particular person will be helpful for you, not only during the current stage, but actually it will help you for the next 24, 36 months. So, and usually our local angel investors and local individuals and even corporates, they are very greedy and also usually ask more than 50, sometimes 80, 90%. And if you hear those kind of terms, I would recommend you immediately leave, because basically those people, again, in my opinion, they don't understand how startup works. Because basically, if they're asking 90% from you guys, it means actually they're not interested in you, because basically you losing your motivation to grow this business, because eventually you ended up having 10%. Having 10% is also not bad if you're having, say, pre-IPO stage. But during first or second stage is actually, it's very painful. And at the end, you might even lose those 10%. So I would advise when it comes to having dialogues, especially with local business people, please be careful and please think twice before agreeing to work with a particular person or with a particular financial group. Because in Kazakhstan, there are not so many, I would say, so-called financial groups, and they know each other, and sometimes they might have allergy to each other. So you need to make sure that if you get money from particular financial groups, that group actually will give you money for the consecutive stages as well, and you will not be stuck and fully dependent. And but when it comes to big VC, you need to make sure that your idea is scalable, and actually your idea is not only, I would say, feasible only in Kazakhstan. So if you have that kind of idea, which might be interesting from cross-border perspective, from international perspective, then you have a chance to get interest from relatively big VC, I would say regional VC or worldwide VC. And if you have it, then you have a chance to be more independent. I mean, more independent in terms of raising money, not only at this stage, but second, third stage. And then plus you have, I would say, potentially revenue stream coming not only from Kazakhstan, from different countries as well. Also, please make sure that, especially in fintech, I will give you our example. We have our payment company, which is licensed by National Bank of Kazakhstan. And when we set up our company, at that time, there was no any minimum capital requirements. But then National Bank decided that there are many companies in that industry, and they set a minimum capital requirements up to $100,000. So basically, it also might kill your business, because this is a regulatory requirement. And usually they give maximum maybe 3-6 months as a transitory period, where you have to find that money and put that money as your capital. And legislation, at least in our countries, they are not stable, sometimes completely inconsistent. And that's why you have to be prepared and make sure that if that kind of stuff happens, that you have some spare financial resources which you can inject, because eventually, again, it might kill your startup. Plus, I would say another challenge is human capital. Although we've been lucky that I think, again, in my opinion, we have one of the strongest IT team, like in terms of core banking system, card business. And for us, it's not difficult to find the right person. But when it comes to marketing, a product development team, I would say, at least we, like personally in our company, we face that kind of challenges to find right candidate. When I say right candidate, I mean right candidate from Kazakhstani citizens. I usually personally prefer hire our local guys, even if they don't have experience. I usually try to support our local guys, and if we don't find local guys, then of course we start looking for people from neighboring countries and so on. And I would say, what else? What kind of another? I would say maybe not. I forgot. So it's funding, legislation, human capital. Um, yeah, that's it. I think. If Yeah, this is, I would say, three major challenges which usually every startups faces, and depending how they overcome, actually, it's also like eventual success depends on that as well. So I will end my presentation at this stage, and if you have any questions or maybe some units, maybe further clarification, I would be more than happy to give you further details. So.
Yes, thank you, Gani, for your speech, for sharing your unique experience and informative, a lot of insights. So yes, dear guests, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask and get direct answer from Gani.
I think someone is raising hand. Yeah, Jiang.
Hi,
Am I
hello,
correct?
Gani. Thank you very much for your
Hi.
time sharing with us. Very insightful experience from your side. My name is Jiang Dong. I work at NUGSB, the Graduate School of Business. So here I'm actually teaching entrepreneurship. So a lot of the international side of the story is much shared among my students. What I found very interesting is what you described about the specific preference of local angel investors. So typically from the international perspective, angel investors would have a shared interest with the entrepreneur to grow the business to attract further investment. When you mentioned that they wanted 80–90% of the share, I have the sense their interest might be different from the typical investor to grow the business, right? So what do they want when they wanted 80% from the business?
Well, this is my personal experience, and actually, like, I met, I would say, maybe 50% of those guys were in Forbes, and most of them asked, I would say, the starting like level was more than 50%. And when I usually ask, like, it's not in your interest, because basically I lose my interest to grow that company, they usually say, I want to control. So I want to control. Most of those business people, they usually, I want to control. I want to make sure that you will do right things. So basically, I would say that kind of untrust upfront makes the deal is, I would say, hardly feasible. And I think it comes from 90s, and maybe it comes from the negative experience. Then they truly believe that if they don't have more than 50%, somehow another partner might do some shady stuff and they might ended up having nothing. And I think that mentality still exists, and it's especially, I would say, that mentality among people who over 50s. And I would say it's almost impossible to persuade otherwise. So basically, when I had negotiation, it was 50. Then, like, the general said, okay, 45, 49, which basically means like that road actually goes nowhere. And at the end, I said, if you truly believe in that project, then just pay me 50 millions and project is yours. And of course, it was actually they laughed, and then they said no, then no. I said no, it's no, so it's fine. So basically, at I would say at every negotiation, you have to be independent, and you have to make sure that when you say no, you have your alternative scenario. Otherwise, especially I would say among young people, because like I'm 47, and then I know those people. But when those people might come to young people, I would say young people might be, I would say, so-called overenjoyed, yeah, overenjoyed in terms of like attention they're getting from those people. But I usually say, like, never agree, especially at first stage, never agree at maybe more than 25%, maximum 30, if you truly believe in your project. If your goal is to sell, if your goal is to find some, like, say, someone who will help you, like as a strategically, and you like more than happy to have 5-10%, then maybe it's fine. But if you truly believe in your project, and if you truly believe that you can grow that company, never agree more than to 30% at the first stage. So, but again, every deal is individual, but I would say it's very hard to find money here locally, especially among those angel investors. Even well-known, the current angel investors, they usually take 40, 45, and they usually look at those projects which will help their empire, which might eventually contradict to your primary goal. So you have to also have, I would say, strategical insight to make sure that you will not make mistake when you say yes. Because usually if you ended up having 10-15%, having our local legislation, you might even lose those 15%.
So the idea you mentioned that they were thinking about synergy within their business empire, that makes a lot of sense. So can we understand it that way? Those angel investors' primary interest may not be actually really scaling up that particular project the entrepreneur has, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, it might be your threshold, which might not be in your interest as well. But again, every entrepreneur is different, and maybe for a certain group of people, it might be like the perfect opportunity to join that empire, to be within that empire. So again, every person is different. But I'm telling my my experience and my mindset why I said no to those people. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is very helpful. I know that there are other questions. In case we have time, I will ask you some more. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Gabriel.
Yes, we have some questions in the chat.
Okay.
Nursultan. Hi, which kind of specialists you mean by product development people? I thought IT guys are product team. So.
Well, product development people, well, basically right now, we have product called prepaid card, yes? And actually prepaid card in this region actually is not well developed. It basically at zero level. So of course, we right now working out our product, not only for Kazakhstan, but for United Arab Emirates, for Philippines as well. And of course, maybe on a marginal level, people to some extent might have difference. But eventually, I would say people are the same. So basically, how to come up with shaping up the product in a such way that prepaid card will be attractive. Because right now, for example, within our team, we're discussing whether prepaid card should be sold free. Because for us, prepaid card is not free. So every sale of prepaid card costs us around 2%. But when you're attracting and when you're building your customer base at the beginning, you have to be ready that you will burn money eventually, like PayPal burned around $3 million TransferWise, all those big, so unicorn company. So, and when it comes to shaping up and when it comes to formalizing our products, like we're discussing whether it should be subscription model, whether it should be transaction-based model. So that I would say, and again, there is no any like right answer. Yeah, it's basically based on psychology, experience, and maybe creativity. So what we're looking for is like the people who might be creative in a such way, who might come up with the product which eventually will be popular among our clients. So when I say product development, it's not like some technical backgrounds. I would say a person who might be creative, might not have experience, but might be creative and might be helpful for us to build and create product in a such way that that product will be popular. Of course, it might be like we have to test it. Sometimes maybe test might go wrong, might go right, but eventually we are looking for people who will not be afraid of taking responsibility in this particular area. Yeah, we have good marketing people in Kazakhstan, but when it comes to card business, when it comes to prepaid business, prepaid card business, to be honest, we still have challenges to find right people and right team. I hope I answered your question, Sultan. Which startup competition you would personally recommend, especially for college? Well, again, startup competition, it depends on your idea, it depends on your geography and your jurisdiction where you would like to work. Of course, there are famous startup accelerators, YC Combinator. It's like a Harvard for startups. There are also Alchemist, also Techstar, 500 startups. Those accelerators which help you build your product, then get right people like as a mentor who will help you shape your product, who will help you get right people when it comes to VC investors, and basically make sure that within that accelerator time, you will graduate with the right set of skills, with having right network of investors and people, so that eventually you can easily raise money and you can easily sell your product. And but to be honest, I cannot recommend maybe particular program for college students. I think maybe it's better to first graduate college and then maybe look for startup competition program. But in Kazakhstan, I would say it's maybe Astana International Financial Center. I think they have some programs. Also, there are a couple of so-called accelerators. I think most, maybe a couple of more. They have, even if it's not accelerator program, but they have some kind of assistant where they help startup at least at the initial point. And I think they ticket up to $50,000. And again, whether it's sufficient or not, it depends on your idea. What advice would you give for student in business? Well, I would say my major advice is actually to get experience as soon as possible. Of course, theory is also, I would say, necessary skills, but if you get experience as soon as possible, the sooner the better, because your experience, it's your know-how, it's your asset, and eventually it also help you either build your own startup or help maybe big corporation when you join them in different areas. What do you think about socially helpful projects like biodegradable packs, about tenders at all, and especially in this field? I don't know what do you mean by tender. I mean tender organized by the government. Of course, any social projects are good, and at the end, when we say social, they are not so-called profit-seeking companies, and at some point they need to get help from someone, maybe big corporation, maybe big development organization like EBRD, World Bank, IFC, who have in their agenda to promote, help, and develop social projects like financial inclusivity, green energy, woman empowerment, everything like that. So yes, I'm fully supportive, and I think government also should be more active in this area. But apart from that, I don't know what else I can add. And I didn't understand when you're asking about tenders at all, and especially in this area, in this field. What kind of soft skills are essential to have for startup entrepreneurs in order to be ready for challenging situation, like you said, in case of investor wanting to hold more? Well, first of all, you need to have idea. It's a first of all, because when you're gonna meet those people, first of all, those people should get interested. And in order to get to that stage, you need to have idea. Then you need to get those people. Then you need to get them interested. And if you do all those three stages, then it means you are something, because you already reached that point where people got interested in your projects. and they want some stake from that. And actually it depends on you, your negotiation power. So at the beginning, you need to have an idea and you need to test it. And I would advise, especially for students, like I think right now for you guys, maybe, of course, every person is different. Maybe some people don't want to do like their own business. Maybe they dream of joining like big corporation like World Bank, I don't know, McKinsey. But if you in your mind like have that kind of dream, I think the sooner you start, the better. Because right now, for example, you have your parents, you have roof, you have foods, you can risk. Because the older you get, you get your family, children's, and the comfort zone, and I would say risk will not be the same. Because basically, especially when you get to that stage, for you guys, it will be very, very difficult to do something. So I would strongly advise the sooner you do, and again, maybe your first startup will not be successful. And any failure is also good because you will have that kind of experience. So in my strongly advice, and if I were you, I would start it just as soon as possible. And if you don't have your own idea, join other group, join other team. Tell them, I don't know, like you can be helpful in certain like areas, in certain, you have maybe some skills where you might be helpful for them. And that kind of experience is very, I would say, it's invaluable, and it will help you in future. Either you will decide to come back and be as an employee, or maybe like eventually you decide to set up your own business. The more I learn economics. Okay, sorry.
Sorry, yes. We have raised hand from Amina Kausar and Sultan Ghazi Adil, and one more question from Jayang.
Okay, listening.
Можно задавать?
Amina, yes, please.
Да. На русском? На английском?
Да, можете на русском.
English, please.
На английском. Хорошо. Well, we at this point of we're at this moment when we don't have enough resources and enough time to create our own platform, which is resource and time consuming. And we know that you have a tech startup, and how you received your first checks, how you performed your first business deals without this platform, or had you has you got this platform from the outset, or have you tried to test your hypothesis before launching the platform? Thank you.
Well, first of all, we build our platform in-house by our own hands. So it's our platform, it's our know-how. And as for the hypothesis, yes, we tested before. And we had so-called like 50 or maybe 55 alpha testers who like immediately liked our idea. And eventually, actually, we didn't want to so-called build our own in-house platform, digital payment platform, because it's very expensive. It's expensive in terms of money, finance, and time. But Kazakhstan, again, it's such a small country where it's very hard to find someone to whom you could outsource certain services. For example, in Europe, if you are fintech and if you have idea, usually those fintechs, they don't spend a lot of expenses when it comes to CapEx, because they can easily outsource, say, for example, payment processing services to companies. They can outsource many, many services and basically can test very fast the idea and within minimum budget. But in Kazakhstan, unfortunately, it's not like the case, because you have to do everything by yourself, and it's expensive and it's long in terms of time, and sometimes it's very frustrating. Because when we had our idea, we approached certain banks, and since like I would say I'm older than you guys, I have network, I know people at senior management, but even when I approach those people, maybe at higher levels, they like the idea, but when it comes to mid-level, maybe junior level, there you spend a lot of time. And with one bank, we actually lost 14 months waiting when their IT system will be ready so that we can offer our products. So at maybe month 7 or 8, we realized that we cannot be dependent on particular banks, because if we want to be fast and if we want to be more proactive, we need to have certain elements in-house. And if we're in Europe, then it would be completely different. Basically, we came up with that idea I would say at the end of 2017. And we only made that feasible only, I would say, in mid of 2020. If we were in Europe, I would have done it within 6-7 months. So you can imagine, for example, so how look, 36 months minus 6, 30 months is basically because of all those constraints what we have in Kazakhstan. It's not competitive market. Banks are very slow, but banks, they are like everywhere slow. But still, there are not so many options when it comes to outsourcing certain services and works. And that's why you have to do it by yourself. But when it comes to doing by yourself, you need to buy those products. You need to discuss terms when it comes to finalizing, formalizing agreement. You need to find people, etc., etc. That's why for fintechs in Kazakhstan, it's very hard, very hard. And the legislation itself is, I would say, pro-bank legislation, because Central Bank of Kazakhstan are still cautious and I would say afraid of liberalizing certain elements in regulation to allow non-banking institution to do some stuff. One example, in European Union, fintech like us, payment company, they can issue card to mass market and sell it. In Kazakhstan, only bank can sell and issue card. But there is no any risk. But still, when we're discussing with the central banks, they're saying, we got used to work with banks, but we don't know how payment companies will behave, which is ridiculous, because we are not asking something new or revolutionary, because it's already somewhere in European Union, in Latin America. And that's why you see a lot of boom, because basically at the end, it affects cost of entry, like cost of setting up the business. And that's why fintech in Kazakhstan, I would say, they have more challenges when it comes to setting up your business, finding money, and do by your own hand to make sure that your business idea and solution will be effective and interesting and popular to the mass market. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
So
Thank
may
you,
I ask a
Amina, for your
question?
Jiang, Mr. Jiang.
Great, thank you. Gani, my question is related also to a certain extent with the previous question, and building on what you have mentioned earlier, that when you have an internationally scalable business idea, you go for internationally well-known VCs. And then you're also running into international competitors. They also have internationally scalable ideas. So my question to you is, in your understanding, in your current project you're working on, what are the particular advantages that you have against international competitors who also have this kind of fintech ideas, who want to facilitate international transactions across the borders? Is, for example, maybe this very cumbersome regulation could serve you certain benefits that, you know, this kind of obstacles also resides in some other potential markets. Then you know the obstacles better than anyone else, right? So this is the specific question of this one applying to your business. I think the other one probably can benefit more entrepreneurs in Kazakhstan context. If they want to work on a scalable, internationally scalable business, what are the areas as a Kazakhstani entrepreneur they have an advantage comparing with other international entrepreneurs working in similar fields?
Well, I would say Kazakhstani entrepreneurs, I would say, how it's called in English, I would say živчики. It's like if they haven't been killed, they will be successful. And unfortunately, I would say constrained not only in terms of regulatory side, I mean, raiding, all those kind of stuff, what's happening right now with Kazakhstan. And if you survive and if you are successful, then I'm pretty sure you can be successful everywhere. But how how we ended up in Dubai. Basically, like through my network, I got invitation to apply for innovation testing license, which is like under Dubai International Financial Center. Because basically, if you're entering UAE and like knocking the door of the bank, nobody will talk to you because you are no one, and you have to understand that. But having international testing license, which was granted by the regulator within DIFC, is actually like a KYC. It means like you already went through certain restriction, regulation, and rules, and you're already there, which means you have something which might be interesting for the bank. And the very fact that we have that innovation testing license actually helped us to reach certain banks with whom right now we're formalizing that kind of partnership. Because otherwise, if I would just call, send email, or even like go say physically face-to-face meeting, first of all, they wouldn't have agreed. But even if they would, it would be much harder than going through DIFC. So having that kind of license, and actually it's very competitive and it's very long process because it took us almost 13 months to get that innovation testing license. But as soon as we got that license, then the rest is easy because basically now everything depends on us. And then as soon as we got that innovation testing license, as soon as we raise money, then another VCs, for example, say people from Singapore, people from Saudi Arabia, they wanted to talk to us. If previously we've been no one, but step by step, actually we're getting more visible, and at every stage we're getting something. Innovation testing license, partnership with Visa, partnership with MasterCard. All of those things actually building and makes you more interesting for potential VCs. And when you're saying that, yeah, like having Kazakh experience is good. It's your know-how, but Kazakh market is very I would say narrow, yeah. And Kaspi is already here, so it's very hard to fight with those kind of big corporation, even though you can, but it might be a long way. That's why since we have that, I would say, idea which is interesting and potentially scalable from international point of view, we decided to go to Dubai, and we see that as soon as we do certain track, we already have list of VC who already agreed to invest. If I were in Kazakhstan, those VC wouldn't even talk to me. So of course you can be number one in your village, but I think it's better to be maybe last in the line when it comes to when you're in the city. I'll just give you one example. P2P transfer worldwide is $10 trillion every year. Cross-border remittance is around $700 billion. 220 million people travel every year to find the right job, which is usually across the world, to support their families who live in their home countries. And just two examples, TransferWise, their market capitalization is 5 billion. They have 8 million people. 8 million clients. Revolut, their capitalization is 33 billion. They have 16 million people. But worldwide, we're talking about billions of people who using this kind of services. So even if you get like 0.0% of that market, it's still larger than maybe 99% of having market share in Kazakhstan. And plus, if you get visible in Kazakhstan, I don't know how long you lived in Kazakhstan, you usually get attention from certain companies and people. And if it's like physical assets, then potentially you might lose. If it's software, still you might have problems. That's why we initially decided to come up with a business idea where we will not depend fully on Kazakhstan in terms of revenue stream wise. That's why we deliberately started building business where revenue will come not only from Kazakhstan, but will come from different jurisdictions.
Thank you, Gani. I think the other dimension of the question, I think you really helped me understand your competitive advantage when you compete with international other startups in similar fields. So what are the potential other fields that Kazakhstani entrepreneurs have an advantage when they try to go internationally?
Well, I would say Kazakh, when I say Kazakh, I mean like all ethnicities. They're very, I would say, talented, especially young people. They're very talented. We have like maybe one of the strongest IT skill guys. And what I found out is actually a lot of companies from India, Pakistan, actually outsource their services to our guys. So I would say IT, for example, biomedical. And again, like I cannot tell for all industries, but since I would say like our country is open. Yeah. So like open in terms of like getting idea, I don't know, from Instagram, from Facebook, from YouTube, you just Google it. And as long as we're open, as long as we have access to those kind of knowledge, and as long as people have this kind of opportunity and they know English, I think it's just a matter of time when certain individuals will start thinking, why not to do something? And again, when they do that, I think that the goal and the liability of the government to make sure that the cost associated of setting up that business and at least running for the first maybe 12 or 24 months to make sure that cost might be affordable, then in this case, I would say the progress is just a matter of time.
Yes, thank you, Gani. The question goes from Sultangazi Adil.
Thank you, Gani, for your story. So as far as I understand, your venture includes prepaid cards and transactions. And also you previously mentioned that you operated under AFC legal framework. So the question is, do you operate as a digital bank or a neobank? And I would like you to talk about getting banking license within IFC and different financial centers.
Well, this is a very interesting question. So like basically just for you to get an idea where Kazakhstan is in IFC, to get banking license within IFC, you need $10 million. To get banking license from traditional regulator, which is Central Bank of Kazakhstan, you need to have $10 billion. To get banking license in Europe, you need $1 million. So you see the difference. And for us to get banking license within IFC and to put that 10 million, it will be stupid decision. It's only big banks can afford it, like Sberbank, as far as I remember, and some Chinese banks, they open subsidiary. No one will open and put $10 million to get that banking license when there is, I would say, no clear Chinese wall between AIFC and central bank. Because as an example, when you have license in DIFC, Dubai International Financial Center, you can sell your product to mass market in UAE, provided that you don't have physical offices. In AIFC, we are e-money company. Within Astana International Financial Center, we can issue card, but I cannot sell those cards to Kazakhstani citizens. Like basically, I cannot make marketing campaign, do like salary card, anything like that. I can only sell within AIFC. So AIFC is good as an idea, but it's a long way to make that floor and to make that center more attractive for fintechs, because basically at the end, there is no big difference when it comes to setting up business in traditional jurisdiction or in Astana International Financial Center. I hope I was clear. If I didn't answer your questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Everything is clear.
Okay, thank you, Adil. Let's return to the chat. The question from Aidana Baghdad: what kind of soft skills are essential to have for the startup entrepreneurs in order to be ready for challenging situation, like you said, in case of investors wanting to hold more than half of the project's profit?
Well, I would say first, not afraid of taking risk, and know your subject and be confident. because I would say the most difficult thing is if you don't get positive news or feedbacks while you're building your business, sometimes it might kill you. And that kind of confidence should be in order to be successful. And of course, you can argue differently, saying that if you don't believe in your project and if you lose your confidence, it means maybe project itself is not good. And that's, I would say, very tricky. So it's again, depends on your judgment, depends on your feeling. But having confidence helps a lot. And of course, I would say the most crucial fact is to have your own network. The more people you know, the better, because eventually, even if your idea is good, if you cannot sell it, if you cannot approach right people, it might not fly. So that's why my advice, meet a lot of people, be involved, get engaged, do a lot of projects, because those kind of interaction might help you. Because we, for example, got money from completely unexpected sources, because we were running after VC, but luckily we found money from completely unexpected sources. That's why I would say confidence, sales skill, and network is also might help you a lot in addition to idea itself.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Chat?
Sorry?
Chat? Are we going to chat questions?
Yes. Yernur Joanes, he wrote, good evening, Mr. Gani. What advice would you give for students in business, in finances, in study? Thanks. So.
Where? What advice? What advice I can give to students in business?
Yes, yes. In study, in business.
I would say, like, again, theory is important, but practice is also, like, real life experience is also very helpful. So, for example, if you think about fintech, then I would strongly recommend maybe join some team who is doing something. And then again, Kazakhstan is small country, as Chinese usually jokes, we know everyone by face, and at the end we're all relatives. So it's basically, if you for example like fintech, my advice, maybe do some part-time, maybe like during on weekends, but just be involved, because practice is very important. All those regulatory constraints, people's emotions, how to deal, how to interact, those kind of, I would say, skills. Of course, it can be so-called teachable, but when you have that kind of like real life example, real life experience, it's very important. If you, I don't know, have interest in different like industries like bio, medical, agriculture, join them, do some stuff, read a lot, and then just prepare yourself for your future step. So for example, if you're thinking about agriculture, it's your passion, then read a lot, talk to those people, get involved, and then after that, maybe your idea will be shaped in a such way that will help you avoid some potential negative consequences. What else? Google it. Actually, information is there. Is basically how you're gonna collect that information, how you're gonna structure that information, and then deal with that information. And of course, I would say the most important things, especially as a founder, sales skills. If you don't have sales skill, learn, try hard, do on practice, like read a lot of books, maybe like interact with those people whom you believe that they have sales skills, because eventually it will help you. Because sometimes you might have only like 30 seconds to talk about your idea. Maybe, for example, you ended up meeting that person whom like you like running for a long time in the airplane, or maybe like somewhere, and you have only 1 minute, 30 seconds. And everything depends on you, how you're gonna structure, how you're gonna tell and what to tell, because it's usually those people are very busy. and they're meeting with like a lot of people, and they see a lot of projects, and you have to be different. You have to have some signals which eventually get him interested in your project. But again, I think I'm telling like ordinary stuff. It's not like I'm telling something like new. So it's basically the same: sales, network, and experience.
And I gonna also ask about books or YouTube channels, TED Talks or lectures you can recommend for the guys, for the students.
Well, yeah. So again, it depends on like which industry we are in. For example, we're fintechs, when a P2P payment, we usually, like I usually personally see what's happening with Revolut, with TransferWise, with World Remit, with certain banks. I usually like follow them on YouTube, on LinkedIn. You regularly check their websites, and of course, like maybe certain individuals whom like I admire also, like as a personal development. Also, like follow them, read about them, what they're doing, what kind of say experience they had, what kind of challenges they faced, and it's. I'm not saying it always will be helpful, but it might, and it's better to have that in your mind when you face some, maybe, I don't know, difficult problem, as like real life problem, business problem, anything like that. So again, as I said, for me, it's a fintechs, payment, P2P. I follow those like leaders in those industries. If for you it's biotech, agriculture, or something like that, follow the leaders in those industries.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we have some questions from Nur Sultan. He asked you for pitch one-to-one about tech startups. Maybe soon via Zoom with you directly.
Yeah, Janet, you have my email, so please send to Nur Sultan. Yeah, why not? Let's see. Again, I don't promise anything, but let's see. Would love to hear your idea, Nur Sultan.
Thank you. Daniel Jumabekov, he interested in what life principles do you stick to, which are helping you in your career?
Just be yourself. And again, I believe in karma. So don't do anything to anyone which you don't want to have this kind of stuff. So like, don't do any bad stuff to anyone, even if you hate those people. Just be yourself, do your stuff, do your job, enjoy your life. And I think that's the major, those are my principles.
Yes, great. And you can see on chat the question from Hehain. Do you see how should we reach out to people who potentially can be helpful? Write emails, call them, keep in touch with people who know them.
Well, again, for example, when we started looking for investment, like maybe we sent 1,000 emails, and maybe we got response on maybe 5%. So again, it depends. Like when you're writing email sitting in Kazakhstan to someone in the US or in Europe, you have to understand that like those people might have prejudice if they didn't have any experience dealing or like interacting with Kazakhstan. So I would advise strongly, if you want to reach certain person, certain individual, do through your network. If you don't have it, then only option left is send email. But again, sending email, you have to be clear, short, and I would say interesting enough so that your email generate interest in his mind. But again, it's very difficult. Again, I wouldn't say that I'm very successful on that, but don't give up. Send email, but if person didn't respond, it means those people didn't get interested. But use your network. And actually sometimes like positive news and positive feedback might come from completely unexpected side. So Don't give up, do your stuff, push your things if you believe in your project.
Thank you. Question from Mohammed Jan Said Khan.
Sorry, but it says like, should we pitch our idea if we don't have the product yet? I think, yes, you can. But in this case, you have to be clear enough in terms of like, say, market opportunity, your idea, and how you're going to do that. And show that you have experience and capabilities that you can deliver that. Because eventually VC and investors, they will invest in you, and they have to trust and believe in you that you can deliver that. Because again, based on Harvard Business Review, out of 100 ideas, usually like around 30% only being realized. So it's not idea per se, it's actually team and human capital who are behind that idea. Sorry, Janet.
Thank you. I'm passing this question. Mohammed Jan Said Khan. There is an opinion that startups usually have a lot of pivots when a company changes a business model, targeted problem. How do you generate new ideas, where to go in such cases?
Yes, it's the right question. Basically, yeah, we also had several pivots because eventually, like at the beginning, our idea was around credit cards. But again, based on the Kazakhstan legislation, e-company like us, they cannot issue credit card. So you had only one option: is wait when bank will agree to work with you. It's one thing, and the second, upgrade their IT system in a such way that you can be able to sell your product to the mass market. So when we lost 13 months in the, I would say, mid of that road, we realized that we cannot do credit card in Kazakhstan. We cannot do credit card in certain jurisdiction because you need to have banking license. And banking license means you need to have more money. And as a startup, you don't have that. That's why we decided to do prepaid card, because prepaid card does not require bank account. And that's why regulation around prepaid card, I would say, more liberal and more easier. That's why we did that pivot and we build our platform around prepaid card without closing our initial idea of credit card. But as soon as we do that prepaid card, we'll be visible and we will have more or less adequate negotiation power, and then come back to the bank and talk about credit card. And pivots, yeah, sometimes it's inevitable, and it doesn't mean it's like you're doing something bad. It means actually you're adjusting your idea to the current market conditions.
Thank you. We have last two questions from Mukan and from Sabar. First, the Mukan. Gani, you have transitioned from public services to a startup entrepreneur. Will you ever consider working for government if they ask you, and what you would like to do?
Yes, I left the governmental sector when I was 34. My last position at the government was Deputy Chairman of Kazyna. And maybe it wouldn't be modest to say, but in 2006, I was offered to be advisor to the president. And after that, I was also like, when I joined Deputy Chairman as a financial supervision agency, again, I was invited to be Deputy Minister of Economics. Within like 6 months after that, I've been promised to be Minister of Economics, of Economy. Sorry. So, but at age 35, I realized that the more I stay at the government, the more, I would say, the less independent I will be in terms of expressing my opinion. Because there are many, I would say, smart people who are working at the government, over 40, over 50, but they don't know anything apart from working at the government. And I would say the most frustrating thing is when they agree and have to put their approval for the things which inside they don't support. And which means that basically you betraying your set of beliefs, if you still have it. And I didn't want to have this kind of situation. And actually, I left myself when Samruk and Kazyna merged together. Even though I was offered the position, I decided to leave the governmental sector. And I don't have any regrets, to be honest, because I know all of those people. We worked, like we started all of them, like as a vice minister. I know, I said, I know all of them. But to be honest, I don't envy them because it's very hard. It's not popular. And you think that they can do a lot, but they don't, because there are so many constraints. And you cannot do things which you believe might helpful for your country. Unfortunately, you can't. That's why I decided to leave. And I would say transitory, maybe to some extent, wasn't, I wouldn't say difficult, but of course, when you're like, say, vice minister or deputy chairman, you got used to some comfort in terms of like how people greet you, anything like that. But maybe it took maybe 1 or 2 months, and then I didn't have any issues or problems. And I think I made the right decision to leave the governmental sector and join private sector, because doing job in private sector, like there are so many challenges. Of course, it's very difficult. But then, if you realize your dreams and if you do things in which you believe, and eventually, I think it's just a matter of time when success will come to you. So I think I made the right decision, and I think right now, having private sector experience, I can be more helpful for the government, even though from time to time I got invitation, but I usually say no. I usually help like by consulting decision makers, especially when it comes to small and medium enterprise, when it comes to taxation, everything like that. Because the problem at the government, people at the government, when they do certain measures, they don't know how those measures will affect private sector, because basically they're just sitting in their offices and projecting. And I would say the most difficult thing is what they do, they don't share the same price as private sector. If they would share, I would say the measures and legislation would be completely different. Все, Жанет, ага.
Спасибо. Да, one more question from Saber. Where do people find investors?
Why? What?
Where people find investors?
If I knew, it might be everywhere. So it's like, again, LinkedIn is very helpful thing, actually. And I would say it's a starting point to find the right people who might advise you what to do, to whom approach. And of course, your network is actually, those two things actually as a starting point to look for the money. And plus, if you are, I would say, at relatively young stage as a startup, please start looking for accelerator programs. It's like accelerator programs we have in Russia, in Kazakhstan, in Middle East and North Africa. We have in Singapore, in Europe, everywhere. So you have to find your own and right accelerator program, which will help you develop your product further and find the right people as investors, your teammates, founders, everyone whom you're looking for.
Yes, thank you. And do you mean you will have more field to realize and help society by yourself?
Say again,
and
please.
How much capital will need to become investor? This question also from Saber.
Saber, you mean you will have more field to realize to help society by yourself? Well, never say never. But I would say at this stage, I see myself in private sector, and basically our idea and our solution actually help unbanked people, because you have to understand people who don't have access to banking services. It's not like in Kazakhstan.
Nice.
Yeah. Hello? Yes? Someone is asking questions, no?
No, sorry, it's just a mistake.
Well, so basically, like our solution helps unbanked people to do banking without coming to the bank, begging open bank account, getting debit card. What you need is just our application, buy prepaid card, and do certain things. Because eventually, yeah, cash is a king in certain countries, in certain jurisdiction, but the progress, and I would say contactless infrastructure, contactless payment infrastructure is growing such, I would say, at exponential rate that people who don't have access to banking services, they actually left. And that's why financial inclusivity, financial inclusion is one of the social development millennium goal for United Nations, for World Bank. So we strongly believe that our solution actually, maybe not to 100%, but partially address that issue. How much capital I need to become investor? Well, again, it depends. I would say maybe like you need to have at least maybe 25,000, 50,000. But again, if you have only that amount, you have to make sure that you will diversify enough that you can manage your risk. But of course, if you are like risk lover and you believe in one idea, you can inject all your money in that project. So there is no any like definite answer. It always, as economists say, it depends. Janeta?
Yes, thank you, Gani. Thank you very much. Have we answered for all your questions? There were a lot of questions today. If there are no questions, we will finish our lecture. But before, I would like to tell about innovation cluster of NURIS. You told about the acceleration program from MFCA, AFC. So we, NURIS, also provide startup programs, business incubator and business accelerator, also a corporate acceleration program for startups, for students, for regions from Kazakhstan. And also we have a creative industry, a digital laboratory, DC Lab, Fab Lab, prototyping center, machine shop. So if you're interested, you can visit our website, NURIS and subscribe us on Instagram, NURIS cluster. So thank you very much again.
Basically, you have everything, I would say, for young students. Like if they have ideas, they can come to you and test the ideas, which is actually, I would say, great opportunity and cheap way to test and at least do something in that area. I would have done it if I was a student, yeah.
Yes, I have. Thank you. So maybe any more questions? If there are no questions, we
Excuse me.
finish our lecture.
Excuse me, can I ask question by micro? Gani, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nuris, for this amazing lecture. I was really inspired by your story. Previously, I have asked a question about pivoting. So I said a lot of startups face a lot of pivots, and usually pivot is such a sad moment when you don't have any ideas. Especially in my startup now, we face a situation when our problem is not very strong for our customers. So we are looking for new ideas where to go in our current market. And I'm really interested, how do you deal with this situation, such situations?
Well, I would say having pivots is not bad things. Actually, it shows your survival skill. But you have to make sure when you do pivot, you pivot right. So that's why maybe you have to think thoroughly and maybe think twice before do those kind of stuff. In our case, we had to, because if we would have followed the initial way, we wouldn't have gone anywhere. We would be still stuck with that bank. That's why if you see that you're not moving and there are certain constraints, anything like that, and you come up with some new elements which adjust your initial business idea, I don't think it's wrong. It actually shows your survival skills. It shows that you're adjusting your initial idea and you open to new ideas and you so-called pivoting new things. So I strongly encourage you not to be disappointed and maybe give up if you have those kind of pivots. It actually shows you that you as an entrepreneur thinking you still believe in your idea, but since that way is not going well, you choose and you find out another way how to reach your final point.
Thank you very much. I got it.
Yes, thank you. Asljan Upash, thank you so much for the detailed and sincere answers from me. Yes, we will.
And also, Janet, sorry for interrupting you. Like, if there will be any like personal requests there, like some personal message, please forward it to me. And depending what kind of say message or request I will get, I will try to answer all of them.
Yes, we record these Zoom lectures and we'll send for all participants after these lectures, maybe tomorrow, and publish it on our YouTube channel, Nouris Cluster. So I want to thank everyone for their participation. I hope everyone got what they wanted, and you, Mr. Gani, too. There were a lot of questions, important and useful questions, and of course useful answers, unique and very insights. So let's stay in touch and come to our next online lectures, our seminars, which will held on September 3rd about Nouris experiences. We will provide broadcasting the Nouris experiences. So thank you very much again. So,
thank you. Thank you, guys, and good luck. I hope maybe in the near future we will see a lot of successful entrepreneurs from Kazakhstan. I strongly believe that like we are talented nations, and you're studying in one of the best university. So I think it depends on you guys, and I hope in 3-5 years we will see you guys as a successful entrepreneurs, successful professors in academics, in business. So I sincerely believe that you can make it, guys. So good luck.
Gani, thank you too. Your story shows that success is very possible and we also can achieve it. So thank you for helping with your knowledge, with your experience. Yeah.
Again, I haven't got that success yet. I'm still at the beginning, guys. So like you, but maybe a little bit different.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to say that your speech is great, and you really catched my attention throughout the whole meeting.
Then it means like you didn't waste your 1 hour time. So thank you for your feedback. Okay, guys, I have to run. I have another meeting. So
Nice to meet you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.